My name's Anthea Caddy. I am a cellist. I come from a media arts background. I actually studied sound at RMIT in Melbourne. Because I studied sound, I come from a slightly different area than music. Obviously, I'm a trained cellist to a point, but I don't come from the conservatorium. I basically studied electroacoustic sound and come from that. So a lot of my work and a lot of my techniques are very much based on how to extend the instrument into an electroacoustic field. So I also come from a very much kind of improvised and electroacoustic environment within the Berlin scene. So I work with quite a few people, specifically mostly electronic artists, which kind of suits my field, and how the acoustic sound and the electroacoustic sound kind of function within a greater whole. Hilary invited me to come and work here within his composition because he works a lot with time and listening and also psychoacoustics. The other people we worked with were very open, which is not always the case with musicians. I mean, we come from Berlin, everyone has their very specific, shtick thing. And here I found that the musicians from Zagreb or Croatia were very much open to other ideas or other approaches on, how to perform. So the process was an interesting process because it wasn't a classical, score, perform, interpret process. It was more of a finding the sounds, finding the amplified sounds, and finding everyone's different field or performance field, and finding a way to actually combine them into a greater whole. My work is very much about sound projection and also how energy travels from the cello through the microphone and also a number of other amplification devices like accelerometers, pickups, amongst other things, and then how that transfers into the speaker and how that speaker and the acoustic sound, I mean, it's a very complex kind of system, how that all kind of develops as a larger whole, and how to actually transfer that into a performative situation. I'm very much looking at projection and how that, and simplification within that projection, because sound has so much information that it's not necessary to have a 50 million speakers. For me, one speaker is a lot of information. So I'm looking at the possibilities of how that can travel along larger distances and how that comes from, again, from the cello out and reflects within an environment being, outside, a cliff, reflecting off water, also a bus station, anything. So spatially, I mean, the spatial environment is very important to me, and that's kind of how I've trained my ears. Of course, that requires certain technologies that we have available to us these days, and I suppose, and I tend not to make assumptions because I'm not entirely sure, that technology has come to a point now where projection is a possibility that wasn't before. We have ultrasonic speaker systems, ultrasound, you know, different types of technology that we can really utilize for that kind of thing. My project at the moment is to use the cello and these speakers to find a way to develop phenomena, not just send sound travelling about. That doesn't really interest me, but to develop a certain amount of sound phenomena within that I can develop artistic performances out of. I'm also looking at extremely large parabolic speakers that can travel for, for a long distance, so maybe 50 metres or something. I think Zagreb seems to be understanding this idea extremely well, more than Berlin. Berlin has a very, Europe in general has a very strong link to classical music, and often I find that it's a little bit too linked. You know, sometimes it's very much a struggle for me to say, hey, I don't want to work like this. It's not normal. But yes, Berlin is a very good place to be for that kind of thing. To have a good network.